We are officially now in week 8 of 8 weeks of this series on loving where we live, one of our core values here at Mosaic. We are a people that is determined to be centered on Jesus and helping others be centered on Jesus and what that means, because we have found life and joy in that. And we've identified 6 core values that when we live and behave this way, it helps us to be centered on Jesus, but it also helps others as well. Core value that we've been mapping through is love where you live. And I'll throw that on the screen so you can see that again. Love drives us to live on mission, just like we've been talking about, and to bring shalom to all we touch. Shalom isn't just peace. Shalom is, man, everything should be right. Holistic healing on every level, relationally, physically, emotionally, financially. We want to help be a part of the story being made right on every level. And so we get from across the street to across the globe, we get out of our seats to be a part of changing the story. We want to personally be engaged in loving where we live. And we want to do it the way that God taught us to do it. Love is a word that's thrown around in society so much. It's got all kinds of definitions. We're interested in the biblical definition. And the biblical definition, the Greek word agape that we've been leaning on, some of you may have heard before, but agape is this sacrificial, intentional, selfless, for the benefit of others kind of love. It may cost, but I do that because I love you. Not what I can get out of you or what I can get out of this community because I live in it. How can I love you? How can I love this community in a way for their benefit? Bringing up there, down there, getting out of my seat to change that story in their life. To lead us in this series, we've been walking through a key text in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. The Apostle Paul, or some of you might refer to him as St. Paul, he put these verses together, and we believe the Spirit of God helped him understand through inspiration, this is the definition of love. Mosaic Church, you want to talk about loving where you live. You want to talk about loving your spouse, loving your kids, loving a friend. These are requirements of what love means. And here they are. We'll put them on the screen for you. Yeah, some of you have magnets everywhere in your house. I love people are telling us where they've been hanging them, lockers and on marker boards at school or the office and on the fridge. It's given us these 14 different characteristics that define love. And each week we've just been unpacking and digging deeper into 2 of them so we can truly understand what that means. If you're newer to Mosaic today or if you've missed a few weeks, I really encourage you, go back. This value obviously is very near to our heart, and we want to love where we live well together. We got to know what we're talking about, what we're doing it. And last week, those last 4 is what we've just launched into. This is our final week. Last week, we talked about love always protects and love always trusts. This week, we're going to talk about the fact that love always hopes and love always perseveres. And these 4 stand out from the others because they have that phrase always, or in different translations, it will say in everything. Love in everything, or love always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres, which tells us that love, this is the kind of love that we do continually, without limits, without exception. We don't just do it when it's easy. We don't just do it when it's convenient. We do it when it's difficult, which is just about all the time, right? People are not naturally easy to love. Secret, you're not naturally easy to love either sometimes, neither am I. But that's the essence or the very nature of love. It can't be earned. Your unworthiness does not mean that I don't love you, and my unworthiness does not mean that you don't love me. God demonstrated that for us, and that while we were still sinners and unworthy, dead in our trespasses, dead in our sins, he dies for us, loves us. It's not based on worthiness. It's not based on how easy it is. It's based on a heart posture that wants to reflect the love that we receive from our God. And so today we're going to finish these last 2. And the last 2 are this, hopes. Love always hopes, and then love always perseveres. That word hopes comes from the Greek word elpizo. Elpizo, you want to say that with me? Elpizo. Yes, say it with authority. Elpizo, it means if you were in 1st century Greece right now or in the Mesopotamia area and you said agape always, I don't know what the word always is in Greek, I didn't look it up, sorry, but agape always elpizos, they would know immediately that you're talking about, it always hopes in. It always has expectation. It has certainty. It anchors on with absolute certainty. That's what love does. It always hopes. Now, if you're paying attention, you might think there's a semantic here or some kind of an interesting nuance, and there is. Because last week we talked about love always trusts, or love always believes in. That's how it's also translated. This week we're talking about love always hopes. Sound a lot like the same thing, don't they? They do, except for one key differentiating point. The last week's message, love always trusts or love always believes in, if you remember, we talked about that's horizontal. I don't give up on you. Love will not let me give up on you. Love will not let me put you to the curb. Love will not let me throw the towel in on you. I will walk with you. I don't believe your story's done. You don't believe each other's story's done. We will walk together. And even when we fail and even when we miss the mark, love always trusts, or love always believes and says, man, pick up. Your story is not done. God is still at work in you, and I'll walk with you in it. So that's love always trusts. Love always hopes. That's vertical. That's that faith that we have, that we, with certainty, elpizo, we anchor ourselves with certainty, and we put our hope in. This is, I'm not giving up on you. Why? Because I can't give up on him, and he's never give up on me. That's where my hope is anchored to. And so they're a little bit different, but they're very different, and they feed each other. The word picture that I could not help but think of on this is skydiving. Anybody in the room, uber adventurous, cool? Who's the cool people, the awesome people in the room? Have you really? I didn't know that. Awesome people in the room. Come on, let me see who's back there. Skydivers over here? Awesome, yeah. There's about 10 or 12 in the first service too. I am so envious. I so bad want to do the insane thing of jumping out of a plane someday. My son Garrett wants to do it as well. I'm married to an amazing, pragmatic woman who loves me and loves her son as well. And so it hasn't happened yet, but if God wills it, I'm ready. So anyway, my birthday's in May. If anybody wants to just rally together and anyway. Skydiving, though, we'll put a picture on the wall. This is El Piso. This is reckless abandon. All safety is gone. There's no safety net to this. This is, everything is in one basket, all the eggs in. This isn't a hope so. I have full confidence in this parachute doing what it was designed to do and what the manufacturers claim it will do. And if it doesn't, I'm a pancake. And it's ugly, right? And I look at these pictures, and my stomach, seriously, if you just look, my stomach kind of gets, ugh, both with excitement and wow. That is putting your confidence in something, putting your absolute certainty with no turning back. That's what it is to follow God this way. We have seen, this isn't just a reckless, crazy, we have no track record on God, so how could we dare, jump out of a plane and just, man, I give everything to you, and you, man, you have to open the parachute or I'm toast. Or better than that, you are the parachute. You carry me no matter what, and if you choose not to, when I splat, I know you got a different plan, or I know you've got another miracle coming because I put all of my faith in you. That's huge. This is not just hope so. This is hope in. This is confidence in. And we can have that kind of confidence in our God, not just because we're just children and, whatever. We can just I do whatever you say, God, and I'm going to follow you, or we're robots for him. He has proven his faithfulness over and over. It's his past faithfulness, his past goodness, his past promise keeping that can keep us confident in knowing we can have certainty. I can have El Piso. I can have hope in who God is. His past faithfulness allows me to bank on his future faithfulness. So we have hope in God. Jump out of the plane. He's got you. Trust him, right? But if you're tracking mentally with me, you might be thinking, okay, that's a great principle to live by, but we're talking about love where we live. Love always hopes. How does that even connect? Me having a hope in God and a certainty in God, how does that connect to me being able to love where I live? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Because of God's faithfulness, we can have certainty. And the certainty or the security that we have in our future, in our forever, it will cultivate hope. Again, hope is not a hope so, it is a hope in. I have certainty. I've anchored myself to it. I'm jumping out of the plane, all that. Because of the security I have in God, I can cultivate hope, which impacts how I see today. And when I see today through the lens of eternity, through the confidence I have in a promise-keeping, ever-present God who does not fail, who does not abandon us, when I have that kind of confidence in forever, I can trust him for today, including the people of today that are sometimes challenging to love. That it's difficult. I've got this all oriented the right way that I know this is secure. You want me to love people around me so that they can know that security as well? I can do that. Love always hopes. Love always elpisos. It has such certainty that even when it feels chaotic around us, even when it can feel chaotic in us, my hope anchors me to be able to love others and to follow God's plan of what that looks like. Eugene Peterson put it this way. He passed away a few years ago. Amazing, godly saint. He finished well, which is so rare to come by anymore. Eugene Peterson says, every day I put hope on the line. I don't know one thing about the future. Do you feel that today? I don't know. I don't even know what I'm for lunch today, let alone what the afternoon's going to hold or what the week's going to hold. Here's how he unpacks it. I don't know one thing about the future. I don't know what the next hour will hold. There may be sickness. There may be world catastrophe in the next hour. We don't know. Seems like that's headlines every day, right? Before this day is over, I may have to deal with death or pain or loss or rejection. Every day I put hope on the line. I don't know what the future holds for me, what it holds for those I love, for my nation, for this world. And still, I say that God will accomplish his will and cheerfully persist in living in the hope that nothing separates me from Christ's love. I have full confidence. Jump out the plane. I don't know what is ahead, but I know you've got me. And because I know you have me, I've anchored that hope in there. I can live different. My disposition is different towards others. These temporary challenges, big and painful and hard to navigate through, costly sometimes to navigate as they can be, they pale in comparison to what I have hope in and what I have confidence in. Think of the things that we look forward to in anticipation. A wedding, yeah? Maybe a long planned vacation. Our kids moving out of the house for good. I mean, yeah, come on. Cover your ears, children. It's true. But think about things that we look for. It's like, oh, that's going to be awesome. That wedding, the vacation, things like that. And I would change that, kids moving out. We want our kids to move out successfully, to find independence and contributing to society, contributing to the kingdom of God in a faithful way because it's been cultivated, right? We look forward with anticipation. Not an easy path to get to any one of those, though. Wedding day, oh my gosh. Just did a wedding a couple weeks ago for Tim and Elizabeth, and man, just an amazing, beautiful day. It didn't just stumble together. Like a year and a half of all kinds of preparation and vendors and the venue and with me and counseling and all on and on. A lot of work, but they walked through all the work and the pain and the cost and the preparation because they knew about the payoff. They looked forward with anticipation. Their confidence was in, we do this right. We just navigate this well, and we're going to start our marriage strong. Going on a vacation you love. Man, that's awesome. Our family loves Disney. We talk about that. We got an annual trip planned for that kind of a thing. It's just a life-giving thing. We can't just, suddenly do that. I got to work diligently. Leslie works diligently. We save up our pennies. We make our plans, reservations, on and on. Make sure responsibilities are covered. There's a lot of work that goes into something we're really going to enjoy. And the knowledge, the confidence that we are going to love the time together and that it's going to have the payoff allows us to walk through the cost, the pain, the adjustments and all that. Getting our kids out. Again, we want them to succeed and be contributors in a rich, healthy way. Your kids aren't going to drift to that. You know that, right? I mean, you know that, right? And the world isn't going to help them get there. If you're a follower of Jesus, centered on him, you got to do what you can to parent your children towards that. And it takes an enormous amount of intentionality and work. But we do it. We endure the pain, the setbacks, the disappointments, the investment, the saying no to other things so that we can say yes to cultivating that in the heart of our children because we know the payoff could come. We know that their lives could reflect Jesus. Their contributions to our world and to his kingdom could look beautiful. And because we have anticipation, that's hope. I'm going to jump out of the plane. There's a risk. But I'm telling you, the joy is going to be found in the payoff. The things that we anticipate, it teaches that we navigate through those hard things and all these things and others because we know the end game. And it changes our disposition even in the painful journey. Apply that to life right now. Painful everywhere. Cost, challenges, difficulties, confusion. But because we have hope and we have certainty and a Father that never leaves or forsakes us, it changes our disposition. We know the payoff, so we can walk through this journey. We can navigate the pain. We can navigate the cost. And we can do it with love. Hope carries this confidence that we look forward to what is good and beneficial. Hope enables us to see beyond the pain, and there's a lot of it, to see beyond the risk, and there's often a significant amount of that, to see beyond the cost, to see beyond the ugly in others that are very difficult to love. It's true. Hope allows us to see beyond that to the other side. Hope gets us looking up, not out, but looking up. And it tells us it will be worth it. We're going to navigate through hard things. I can't tell you otherwise. It is challenging to love people well. But hope causes us to look beyond the now and look to the forever. So we anchor ourselves to hope. Now, love always hopes is tied very closely to this last one, and it's this word, love always perseveres. Love always perseveres. That comes from the Greek word hypomeno. Hypomeno, let's say it together, hypomeno. There you go. If you're walking around the streets of Mesopotamia in the first century, they would know that you're talking about something that endures when you say that word, something that stands firm, someone that is tenacious. Think of a dog that will not let go of a bone. I mean, just tenaciously holding on no matter what. Hypoponeo. And it perseveres. It doesn't quit. It doesn't give up. It's what Charles Spurgeon, the famous preacher from the 1800s, would say. By perseverance, the snail reached the ark. Isn't that fun? I'm like, And every snail since then is really glad that he left that slimy trail. I don't know if we are, but every snail is. Albert Einstein, it's what he said when he said, I'm not that smart. It's just that I stay with problems much longer. He doesn't bail on them. It's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes, persevering to solve them. It's what Winston Churchill said when he said, if you're walking through hell, keep walking. Don't stop. It won't turn out well. Don't quit. Don't go back. You just got to cover the ground you've already walked through. Keep going. Don't quit. Persevere like a snail unto an ark. Stay with the challenges. Stay with the problems. It's what the scriptures teach us about Jesus. Jesus modeled this, and John captured it in John 13. Having loved his own who were in the world, Jesus loved them to the end. Until he knew it was time to go and take his place next to the Father. Until he knew the cross and the resurrection had been done. While he watched them fail, while he watched them miss the mark, while he watched them not understand, while he faced all the challenge, all the cost, he loved them to the end. He endured. He persevered. It's what the writer of Hebrews tells us in Hebrews 12. We fix our eyes on Jesus because he's the pioneer and perfecter of that faith. And for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. It's that same word as persevere in the Greek. He endured the cross, scorning its shame, and he sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Did it cost Jesus to persevere in his calling? Oh my goodness. But because of the joy, he knew the payoff was coming. Because of the joy that was set before him, he endured it. He went through this out of love for you and me. Love perseveres, does it for the benefit of others. And we see this everywhere in life. I mean, if you think about it, it shouldn't surprise us that if we want to be people who are impacting our community around us with love, we got to persevere and we got to push through the barriers, to the pain, the cost, the difficulties. It takes work. It takes keeping our eyes fixed on up. We got to do that. We see it everywhere in our life. You want to be an accomplished pianist? You want to be an accomplished musician or a vocalist on a stage somewhere where you get to serve and lead others? You got to put the time in. You got to do the voice lessons or the instrument lessons. You got to do the practice. You got to get the calluses on the fingers if you're playing. You got to do the work. You got to persevere. If you're going to hell, keep walking. If you're trying to get good at something, don't stop or turn around. You want to be a good instrumentalist? Keep going. You want to be a great athlete? You got to work hard at it. It affects everything from your diet to your schedule to what you say no to so what you can say yes to. You want to have a great marriage? You won't just drift into it, friends. It takes work. It takes perseverance. It takes a love that perseveres, an agape love for the benefit of the one you're married to. And it takes a lot of intentionality. You will not just drift to it. You want to be an anchored, Jesus-centered, stable, in the middle of the chaos of the world kind of a person? It will take discipline in your life. It will take work. It takes perseverance. I have a friend who is part of Alcoholics Anonymous. And man, I had the privilege not terribly long ago to go to a chip ceremony with them. And if you have struggled with those kind of habits or addictions in your life, man, I just watched as just how important those moments are. The victory, the joy, the hope, the miracle it is to get to those chip ceremonies, to the next mark. And I know there's people in our church, conversations actively right now with some that are struggling with this. And I just want to encourage you, don't walk alone on that. And I get chip ceremony, we're talking afterwards. I'm like, that was powerful for me. As a follower of Jesus, watching people have victory and being set free, I mean, it parallels so much of what I want to be about and what I found in Jesus. And he said, this is cool. He said, every time we go to our AA meetings, somebody in there will say, don't quit before the miracle happens. Don't quit before the miracle happens. Persevere. I mean, you're part of the way there. Don't quit. Don't retreat. Don't look somewhere else. Don't quit before the miracle happens. And I'm telling you, church, your kids need to see that in you. Your neighbors, they need to see that in you. They need to see that in us. The world around us that is aching for a miracle. Sometimes don't even know how to define it, don't even know what they're aching for. But the only way it can be answered is by God through Jesus, who gives love and hope. They're looking for it. Don't quit, because there's miracles that could be happening, miracles that could be birthed right around you in the lives of so many. Don't quit, because those miracles are coming. So what I want to do is this. I took a little bit longer than I intended, because I got about 9 minutes and 30 seconds, it tells me, before I'm supposed to be done this morning. So I'll try to move through this fast. But I want to park right on that thought right now. The idea of don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. Don't retreat. Don't bail on it. Persevere, as the scripture has called us to, as Jesus modeled for us. And the reason I want to is because myself included, I'm guessing there's not a person in here, there's not a person in line, online, no matter what your story is, no matter how old you are, how long you've been in the faith, male, female, it doesn't matter your race, doesn't matter your socioeconomic level. Every one of us are carrying a fatigue right now that makes much of what we're preaching today so challenging to live. And some of you are so gracious, and when I go out in the lobby or I check my inbox or something like that, or social media posts, sometimes, man, what a great message today, Jeff, and it warms my, thank you so much. I do genuinely, it means a lot. It's a gift to hear that. But if you've said that, many of you will know most of the time when I hear something like that, man, that was a great message today, my response will be, thank you so much. Now we got to go live it. And living it's a lot harder than preaching it. It's very true. It's a lot easier to try to understand the teachings of Scripture. It's what we all face. But how do we live this? How do we live with a hope that expresses love and endures? How do we live with a perseverance that says, I will not quit. I will not throw the towel in? Because it's happening everywhere, all around us. And it's painful. It's painful to experience and walk through, and it's painful to see. Most of you know I love hiking. I was, on Friday, I got to go up Mount Morrison. And some of you have done that. If you've done that, you're like, whoo, oxygen. It's right behind Red Rocks. Got the radio tower there. You've seen it right off of C-470. 2 miles, it's like climbing stairs for 2 miles straight up. I mean, that is literally about the incline slope. It's unbelievable. And you just earn the summit up there. And I love it. Some snacks up there and just enjoy it. It's really, in all seriousness, a time of prayer for me. I love thinking and praying for you guys. And many of your faces or names will come to mind, and others that I'm praying for. I get up there. I can see the skyline one way. I can see the Rockies the other way. I can see this building from the summit. I can see my neighborhood, and I pray for all of it. And I just ask God to let his presence and power be known wherever we can put our fingerprints. And I love it. It's beautiful. Friday was a gorgeous day, great day for a hike. I'm on the way back down, got my earbuds in, and I'm just bouncing along to some great worship music. I'm loving it. And I see this lady coming up that I recognize because I had run into her on the trail maybe 3 or 4 months prior. It was earlier this summer. Her name's Kayla. I remembered her name, I remembered her face, and I remembered a little bit of her story. And part of the reason I remembered her was because when I ran into her about 3 or 4 months ago, she was like a gazelle and passed right by me. And it wounded my pride. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to own it. And you don't forget people like that, you know? So I remembered her. When I saw her, though, like before she had gone up and she had a water break, and I caught up with her just enough, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm dying. I'm like, man, what's your name? What are you? Some kind of a cyborg, kind of like, how do you run this fast? What do you do? And she runs it every week, and she's been doing it for a couple of years. That's awesome. And somehow the conversation pivoted to finding out that her and her husband help lead worship at another church in our area. And I was like, that is amazing. I said, hey, I'm a pastor. I mean, that's so cool. And what a crazy year and a crazy season. We're talking through all of that. And turns out she went to Cedarville. I think I saw Josh and Tammy, some graduates from Cedarville. She went to Cedarville back in Ohio for ministry training. And just loving her story, man. Fist bump. Come on, let's shine Jesus together. I see her 3 or 4 minutes later on the trail. I'm like, that's her. I'm like, hey. And she's like, hey. I'm like, Jeff. Is it Kayla? Kayla, that's right. Yeah. I'm like, hey, how you been? Wow. I said, here you are again. You said you've been staying at it. Yeah, wow, all that. What a beautiful day to run, on and on. I said, how are things? If I remember right, don't you and your husband lead worship at a church somewhere in the area? And that's when the conversation changed. 3 or 4 months ago, she's up here leading others to the throne, leading others, not in a performance way, but please look at Jesus. He's the answer and he's the hope. And she tells me on Friday, she said, looks away, looks at me, looks away, looks at me. She's like, I probably haven't been in church in 3 months, 2 or 3 months at least. I'm like, oh, wow. kind of leaned on a rock, and I said, what's going on? She's like, very hesitant. She's like, yeah, aren't you a pastor? I'm like, yeah. She's like, man, I just don't believe in it anymore. It's just, I've been seeing so much in the church. She started talking about her community group. It's like our life groups where they had been vulnerable about some things they were struggling with, backfired on them, fractured a lot of trust. She started talking about what she's seen in the church and some of the ugly, and we have been ugly at times. And it just fractured her. And she even went so far as to allude that it's fractured not just her faith in the church, but her el piso, her confidence in, her faith in God. And it's just, she's like, I'm just sorry. I said, hey, I'm hearing it everywhere. I'm so sorry. I started telling her about our church. I don't know if she's been here this morning. If you're here, Kayla, if you're online, welcome home. Because I told her, I said, we are a place that recognizes we are broken. We're shattered without Jesus, but he brings us together, puts us together with other people. He makes some pretty cool new things, and we get to be a part of that together. If you're ever interested, I think you'd really love our church. So I hope she does come if she hasn't today. And she went back up that way. I'm heading back down the hill. I got about a third of the mountain to go. And for probably the next 200 or 300 yards, all I did was grieve. I grieved because it felt like another casualty. And what it did is it brought to mind other casualties that this last 18 to 24 months has involved. People that used to occupy seats in here. And I know some are online worshiping for health reasons and different reasons or travel, but there's a lot of stories. You know them. You love them. They're your friends. They're my friends. They're our fellow sojourners together. And for whatever reason, they've jumped off that wagon. They've reoriented themselves and their schedule in a different way. We were talking this week, our leadership team got together. We're sitting in my office and just talking. We were talking about plans for 2022. The conversation pivoted to, man, where's the church today? Little C Church, Mosaic, Big C Church, all the churches together, Scott's, all of our church, where are we today? And some of the phrases that kept coming out were, I keep hearing so many people who are exhausted. Physically, yeah, but like just emotionally, spiritually. So many people who are growing disenchanted, disenfranchised with the church. So many people who are giving up stuff, giving up their normal routines, and many of them, it includes church. These are phrases, I wrote them down as they were saying them. Some of them are giving up things that they thought were life-draining, but they're giving up the wrong things. They were the things that gave life, and now they're even more exhausted because the support network or the family that they identified with, it's gone, and it's just weird now for them. And I started thinking about this from a pastoral standpoint. Obviously, it's a filter I want to run through as I'm navigating as a follower of Jesus and what I feel and identify with much of this. I was thinking about it as a pastor. And I was remembering Leslie, she mentioned the conference she was at, and she shared one of the things that was shared at that conference, massive church, thousands, over 10,000 people normally pre-COVID that were attending this church in Vegas, in Las Vegas, where the conference was for women last week. And one of the speakers was saying, we are allowing ourselves to grieve because we've been open for over a year and over half of our church is still yet to come back. And we're allowing ourselves to grieve because these aren't just people that occupied seats. They aren't just people that wrote a check to the church. These are our friends. These are our people that we journeyed with in life groups. These are our people that dropped their kids off and trusted us, and we got to pour into their kids week after week or their students throughout the week. And now they're gone, and we don't know. They're not responsive, and we're just allowing ourselves and allowing our church to just grieve. And I wish I could tell you these are isolated conversations. I wish I could tell you it's an isolated team meeting in my office talking just about this, but I know churches from Orlando, Florida, to Indianapolis, Indiana, to Phoenix, Arizona that I've been in conversations with. If Scott came up and told you in Houston, Texas, there probably is not a pastor in the country that churches are not navigating through this. And I'm running down this mountain still thinking about this, thinking about Kayla, thinking about all this, and I'm picturing Satan just like, oh, he's just eating this up. He's loving this. There's such a wake of casualty in the church of people who are losing hope, of people who are losing the will, the strength to persevere. And he's just absolutely loving it. Like never before in our lifetime have we seen some of the exodus that we're seeing from the church right now. And it's hard. And so I want to pause here, and I just want to say, by the way, October, Hallmark had to come up with this. This is so silly on one level. But October is traditionally one of those like pastor appreciation months. I mean, it has to be a Hallmark thing to buy cards and stuff like that, right? I mean, they're always coming up with a new holiday, And thank you. Several have given me cards or dropped emails or said, thank you so much. And I'm not, if you haven't, please, this is not me asking for it, I promise, because listen to what I'm about to say. When I think of Pastoral Appreciation Month, I think of me saying thank you to you. I really do. When I think of it, October rolls around, I just want to tell you, thank you for the unreal privilege it is, the honor to be able to serve as a pastor, as a shepherd in your life. It's kind of like what I do with my mom. My birthday's in May, and I try to beat my mom. She's going to call, I try to beat her to the phone and call her and tell her, hey, it's my birthday today. Thank you. Thank you. I don't exist without you. My mom almost died giving me life. She almost died in childbirth. And some would say she should have. She had a blood clot, and praise God, and she's still alive today. And I can call her and say, thank you. I do the same thing with you. I don't get the privilege of knowing what it's like to watch and shepherd and serve. And I was up here a few weeks ago with the towel to be able to wash your feet without you. Thank you for the trust. Thank you for letting us serve your kids and your students and in speaking to your marriages and your spiritual walk. Pastoral Appreciation Month is me saying, I appreciate you. So thank you so much for that. And thank you, church. Thank you for persevering. Thank you for not quitting. Not for me, but I love where I live. And I don't want to just love the mountains and the trails. I don't want to just love art downtown or cool restaurants. I want to love people the way Jesus has loved me. And I can't do it in the sphere that you're in. And as you persevere, and as you hold on to hope, you are loving where you're living. Thank you for persevering. Thank you for not quitting. Thank you when you've seen casualties and other soldiers fall on the wayside, on the shoulder. You said, no, I'm going to be the last man saying, we're going to keep going. And we are. And don't hear, we're strong. It says in Matthew that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church of Jesus Christ. So you're on the right side. You're on the winning side. But it's hard. And there's exhaustion, and there's fatigue, and there's wounds, and there's mud on your face, a big disgrace, kicking our can all over the place. But we will rock you, right? I mean, that's what we got to feel. We are champions in our Savior. Thank you for persevering. I mean that from my heart. And I just want to encourage you to keep running hard, because we are in a world around us filled with people that are looking for miracles. Don't bail. Don't quit before the miracle comes. They're looking for the miracle, and you might just be it. Someone who stands with all the chaos and all the turmoil and all the fatigue and all the polarity and all the vitriol and all the ugly in the world, and you're still standing in love, in hope, in faith. It's a miracle. And you can't do it on your own. You've got to be tightly knit. You've got to be fully centered to be able to do this. And so thank you, church, for persevering. Thank you for letting me have the privilege of walking through this crazy journey with you. And thank you for leading me in it and serving along with me in it. Give you two verses here, and then I'm going to close with just a text as we worship. One, Paul says this in Colossians chapter 1, continue in your faith, established, be firm, and do not move from the hope held out in the gospel. Hope is not in Mosaic. It is not in your life group. It is not in your rituals or your disciplines or how much you give. Your hope is in the gospel. It is in the good news of Jesus that can never be taken away. Jump out of that plane with wild, reckless certainty, because he died, he rose again. He's with you. Hold on to that hope of the gospel. And you want a script to make it through this season and keep going on? You should write this verse down. You should plaster it somewhere where you're going to see it. Romans 12:12. Three little things. Rejoice. It's like Dr. Jesus or Dr. Paul in this passage saying, kind of crazy right now. Yeah, you've got what's called crazyitis. It's all over America right now. Everybody's got it. Let me give you the prescription. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in tribulation. Be constant in prayer. Take an apple every day and call me in the morning. Maybe a couple Tylenol wouldn't hurt either. But biblically speaking, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. Guys, you do that and you are anchoring. Please hear this. If you're nothing else, that's all centered on him. It's not centered on your strengths or trying to get you to work harder or manage life or just kind of get you. We want to persevere, but we cannot do it unless we are rejoicing in hope, what he's done, who he is. Being patient in the tribulations because we can see the end game, right? And then we are constant in prayer. We are fully dependent on you, Jesus. We have no hope. We have no chance without you. We're fully dependent on you. I'm going to close with just a passage. We're wrapping our Love Where You Live series. I mentioned last week, it's messed with my heart. It really has. I hope it's messed with your heart a little bit because I want to love the way Jesus loves. And our world only responds to that kind of love. And I cannot do that on my own. I'm tired. You're tired. I got a lot of excuses. You got a lot of excuses. The world is a mess. I know. But we can live this love. Don't miss this. We can live this love if we've lived in this love. Got that? We can live out this love. We can love with patience and kindness. We can love with perseverance and hope if we've lived in this love. And I want to read just a few verses from 1 John chapter 4. It just felt like as I was putting this series together a few months ago, I'm like, well, this is where we've got to end. We've got to be reminded this isn't about just striving harder. You keep running, you keep going, but it's about starting in the right place. And that right place is recognizing that the author, the source, the spring of that love is our God as he shines through us. So let me read these verses and please receive it as an encouragement. Dear friends, let us love one another. By the way, you're going to hear love like 11 times in these next couple of verses, so hang on. I think that's the point. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God, but whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. He is the source. He is the author. I can't express it unless I've experienced it. I can't live it out unless I'm living in it. This is how God shows his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This is love. Not that we loved God and made ourselves worthy, but he loved us first, and he sent his Son as an atoning or a payment sacrifice for my sin and for your sin. Dear friends, since God so loved us, now it's our turn. Because we've experienced this, we can express it. Since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one's ever physically seen God. But you want to see a picture of him? If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. And take those verses. You might just read them over and over this week. Be reminded, I want to express this. I ache to express what Paul has taught us in this passage of what love is. I cannot express it unless I've experienced it. I can't live it out unless I'm living in it. And so pivot that way and just be in awe of the love of our God and the fact that he invites us to join and partner with him to bring that love to others.